But in terms of our interaction with some of our partners in Europe and elsewhere, there has been a sense of patronizing bullying toward you choose this or else. And the recent legislation passed in the United States of America by the House of Representatives, we found a most unfortunate bill that we'd hope the media would say more about, because when we believe in freedom, as I'm saying, it's freedom for everybody. You can't say because Africa is doing this, you will then be punished by the United States. So that's been a disappointing passage of legislation by one house, and we hope the other house will not agree to such offensive legislation. So indeed, it is important that all of us accept our ability to hold different opinions. We are, after all, sovereign nations that are regarded as equal in terms of the United Nations Charter. We may differ in terms of economic power and economic ability to influence development in different parts of the world, but what will make the world work is if we respect each other.
Fundamentally, what African countries, African governments are trying to say, and what Minister Pandor was trying to say, is we have our own vision, we have our own plan for where we want to develop. What we want is for our partners to come along with us, and not to kind of suggest that we must change our policies in order, or to change out the ways of our thinkings in order to partner together, but to find ways in which we do so constructively. And I think that's a very important message, and I hope that Americans will be watching what Minister Pandor said and really understanding it, because I think it's very crucial.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is your brother Kadar Bond of GMS Gulf Coast. I'd like to start by giving our praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah, Quadash. Double honors are given unto the apostle, elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I also like to send a shalom to the hopefully elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, speckled birds scattered throughout the four winds of planet Earth, north, south, east, and west, which consists of men, women, and children in that order. I also like to send a shalom to the various GMS camps, elders, and heads, and last but not least, I'd like to send a shalom to any of you Akim not named GMS, but walking one spirit, one body in Yahweh Shai, preaching and teaching this 100% truth as taught to us all by the apostle, elders of Great Millstone. To you all, shalom. Abu Ratazadis, be to the point, And let's get back at it. Had a few issues had to take care of, but back to the Lord's business. This subject matter being the United Snakes of America, Salakia, the United States of America. Let's keep it clean. Throwing their weight around, You had the French president, I can't think of his name. He was over there in South Africa, trying to bully these Hamites around. You're either on board with us or you're against us. And if I'm not mistaken, George W. Bush, the son Bush, which was we know as the orchestrator of the Gulf War, or the war on terrorism, he made a similar statement to the French, not just the French, but, to their allies in general, you're either with us or you're against us. And the French took that personally. And if you remember, they had freedom fries. They changed it from French fries to freedom fries because they was beefing, because quite frankly, the French wasn't on board. So I guess they was against America. But now these European nations are all forming Voltron. Let's use that analogy. Old cartoon had 6 lions. They used to come together to form one robot. And that's how Esau Edom operates. They may have internal fighting, but they will come together and form Voltron when it comes to the darker hued people of the planet. Now, having said that, French president, he was down there throwing out bullying remarks as concerns the South Africans. And you have the Secretary of State down there with the same sentiment. So they're forming Voltron. And then this is because they want the South Africans to be on board with denouncing Putin, another Edomite. You see, this is an in-house fight. This is going on, as they like to say in the black community, it's black on black crime. But you kill where you live. I like to say this real quick. So-called black people have not been taught a history where the black race has went around the whole planet, robbed, maimed, stole, killed, did whatever it took to take the land from the people. Use whatever means necessary to maim, to rape, and rob the people. Inhumane tactics to gather the land and take it all for themselves. So-called blacks have never been known to do that, and at that point, you so-called Hispanics and Native Americans as well, you've never known to do that, been known to do that. But yet and still, a narrative will be made that black on black crime, But that falls in line with what was just said. You kill where you live because you don't live nowhere but in the worst conditions on planet Earth. You're in hell. But on the other hand, the so-called white man, he kills all over the planet. And now he's having an in-house fight, which is known in the scriptures, the Third World War. It's an in-house fight. And they can't, or rather, they shouldn't be trying to force anyone to take sides in an in-house fight. But anyway, they being showed up. These other nations are about tired of these so-called white folks, these white men in particular, running around throwing their weight around the whole planet Earth. And not just turning the other cheek. They're making plans to fight him. Now, I want to play this clip right here dealing with China.
Let's shift our attention to Taiwan. China is still fuming. American lawmakers are still needling China. It began with Nancy Pelosi, and yesterday another group of U.S. lawmakers landed in Taipei. They say they're there to prevent a war.
At this moment of uncertainty, we must do everything we can to maintain peace and stability for Taiwan. We have a moral obligation to do everything we can to prevent an unnecessary...
I can't believe he said that white man said that they have a moral obligation. Or rather, a representative of the United States of America said that they have a moral obligation. Now, he just soak that up. Soak that up. A moral obligation. In order to be moral, you have to have morals. And this country has proven by far that they have no morals. No morals whatsoever. When you can pass legislation that's an abomination to life in general, Same-sex marriages and whatnot. That's abomination. That's declaring genocide on a society, on a people. Because you can't reproduce like that. But then they'll say that they're moral. They have a moral obligation. This man will lie with a smile on his face.
Necessary conflict. In Taiwan...
They say they're there to prevent a war.
At this moment of uncertainty, we must do everything we can to maintain peace and stability for Taiwan. We have a moral obligation to do everything we can to prevent an unnecessary conflict. And Taiwan has demonstrated incredible restraint and discretion during challenging times.
That was Senator Ed Markey. He represents Massachusetts in the US Congress. He's leading the delegation to Taiwan this time. Was his delegation successful in its mission? Was it able to diffuse the tension? On the contrary, it only aggravated the situation. Last week, China had stopped the drills around Taiwan. Now they've resumed them. The Chinese military is making open threats again. How will the US respond this time? That's what we'll discuss in the next few minutes. Let's start with details about this latest visit to Taiwan. The US delegation landed in Taipei yesterday, and just like Pelosi's visit, this is an overnight stop. The lawmakers spent just a day in Taiwan, but this delegation was not as big as Pelosi's. Just 5 American lawmakers visited Taipei. What for? They came with an exhaustive agenda: US-Taiwan relations, regional security, trade and investment, global supply chains, climate change, all sorts of things. Now, these lawmakers want to work with Taiwan on all these fronts. That's what they say. They're sending a big message because this was a bipartisan delegation, meaning both Democrats and Republicans were part of this group.
Bipartisan. They'll fight over issues dealing with whether or not they're going to give reparations to so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, but in particular so-called black people. They'll sit there, they can't get on the same page about that. They can't get on the same page about a lot of things. You know what I'm talking about? They're in there fussing about Joe Biden. You know, he can't read from the teleprompter correctly. His poll numbers are dropping and whatnot. You feel what I'm saying? He's the worst president ever. I wouldn't argue with that, but, you know, they can't come together on nothing but when it comes to this right here, when it comes to what? An ally. And quite frankly, the U.S. dollar is collapsing. It's taking a nosedive. I don't know what that was. It's taking a nosedive. It's gonna get across the board. It's gonna get 10 points when it makes a non-splash when it hits the pool. And behind the scenes, you know, that's really what's going on. And they're trying to hang on to the last little vestiges of their so-called allies that are dealing in U.S. currency, you know, because Europe, by and large, has flipped to the ruble. Bipartisan.
Taiwan on all these fronts. That's what they say. They're sending a big message because this was a bipartisan delegation, meaning both Democrats and Republicans were part of this group. So both American parties are trying to show their support to Taiwan. For Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, this is an opportunity. She's trying to rope in as many allies as she can.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine earlier this year has shown the threat that authoritarian nations pose to the global order. More recently, China has been conducting prolonged military exercises in the waters surrounding Taiwan, greatly affecting regional peace and stability. We are engaging in close cooperation with international allies to closely monitor the military situation. At the same time, we are doing everything we can to let the world know that Taiwan is determined to safeguard stability and status quo across the Taiwan Strait.
So those are the stakes.
And the status quo is to keep trading in U.S. currency.
Safety of the Taiwan Strait and stability of the Indo-Pacific at large. The U.S. is trying to normalize visits by its lawmakers to Taiwan. It is forcing China to get used to them, at least hoping that China will get used to them. But experts say it's a bad strategy because Beijing has decided it won't back down. Xi Jinping is once again flexing his military muscle. China sees Taiwan as a breakaway province. The Chinese military is rehearsing how it can take this province back by force. When Nancy Pelosi came, China surrounded Taiwan and dispatched warships and warplanes. It fired missiles over the islands. This time, they're doing the exact same thing. No change really in Beijing's approach on how it is going to make its point. Reports say 30 fighter jets took to the skies today. 15 of them crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. The median line is the de facto border between Taiwan and China. And the Chinese have been crossing it regularly. And Chinese planes crossed this border again today. Where were the rest of the jets? They were near the airspace of Taiwan. China sent naval vessels too. Taiwan's defense ministry spotted at least 5 of them. Beijing says the US is now playing what it calls cheap political tricks.
China will take resolute and effective measures to safeguard its national sovereignty and territorial integrity. A few US politicians connive with the separatist forces of Taiwan independence and attempt to challenge the One China principle. This goes beyond their own abilities and is doomed to fail.
That was the spokesperson of the Chinese Foreign Ministry. He said American lawmakers are not capable enough to dilute the One China policy. So the verbal attacks are now getting personal. And that wasn't even the worst statement. China's defense ministry was much more aggressive in its press release. I have it with me. This is what it says. This is from the Chinese Defense Ministry. The Chinese People's Liberation Army continues to train and prepare for war, resolutely defends national sovereignty and territorial integrity, and will resolutely crush any form of Taiwan independence, separatism, and foreign interference. So the warning is clear, has been clear for a few weeks now. China says the PLA is preparing for war. It is threatening to crush Taiwan's hopes of independence.
There you have it. You can expect, you can expect, Revelations chapter 13, verses 15 through 18 to start taking place very soon. The merging of man and machine, the third, fourth industrial revolution has begun. The forced implementation of picking a side of who you're going to be with. Going to be with the side of Egypt and its kings and pharaohs, the Chaldeans, pursuant to Isaiah chapter 31. Or you're going to take side with Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Joshua 5 and 24. Or 24 and 5. It's like it. Side you're going to be on. Because it's starting to wrap up real quick here. This is starting to play out. Just as the scriptures has laid it out to be, Wars and rumors of war. That's where we at. This is Revelations chapter 11 and verse 14. It says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. Now, it ain't been about 80 years ago, a little over 70, 80 years ago. You had the Second World War. And in the time of, in the Lord's frame of time, that ain't been an hour or so ago. So these things are happening real quick. But we know that there's other things that going to have to come about first. All hell's got to be, it's going to break loose for the most part. And a time like never before. And the forced implementation of, the forced implementation of you merging with the Internet of Things. This is, let's see. But this man is throwing his weight around. He's down there trying to bully the South Africans, telling them you either gonna do this or you're against us. And they're getting pressure from the French and from the Americans, which are Edomites, so-called white people, both. They're getting big pushback from both ends. This is Ezekiel chapter 28 and verse 1. It reads, the word of the Lord Yahweh came again unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrese, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, thy power, because thy heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas, yet thou art a man, and not a God, though thou sit thy heart, it's like as though thou set thy heart as the heart of God. And this, the only one who acts like that is this so-called white man. You know, the only one that acts like that is this so-called white man. You know, he's God Almighty. You know, this is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 1, and it reads, the vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, power concerning Edom, concerning this so-called white man. It's one to think he God. You know, we have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. And that's what you're seeing. These other nations, they ain't, you know, China and them, they already have the United States by the groins, for lack of better words. You know what I'm saying? They already got them by the groins, because China and Russia and most of the European countries are dealing in currency that's not named the Federal Reserve note now. That's why you're seeing these lawmakers and Sleepy Joe and them, they making political visits to people, you know, even the Saudis. You know, they all over the place trying to hold it together, you know, this so-called democracy. They trying to hold it together. That's because these people is not, you know, the Lord is raising up, is putting the spirit on these different world leaders, these kings, for lack of better words, to rise up against this place, because this place is done. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. Don't nobody like this so-called white man anymore, you know. And even the Hamites are starting to bow up, you know. At least in rhetoric, you know. That woman, South African woman, was saying, you know, hey, we should respect one another better than this. We supposed to be free, you know. And notice the word supposed to be. You ain't got a standing army, you ain't sovereign. Last I checked, South Africa ain't got a big enough army to say that they free of the clutches of the imperial powers of the United States, the world bankers. So no, you're not free. It says, the pride of thy heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Though thou exalt thyself as an eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, this will I bring thee down, saith the Lord Yahweh. And when they got up in there, supposedly landed on the moon, they said, the eagle has landed. Making mockery of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Trying to make mockery, man. You know, it's a proud devil. You know. But he's being showed up now. He's being showed up. This back in Ezekiel, chapter 28, verse 2. Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrese, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, power, because thy heart is lifted up, and thou hast said, I am a God. I sit in the seat of God, in the midst of the seas, the midst of the people. Yet thou art a man and not a God, though thou set thy heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. And that's been proven. That this is talking about the so-called white man. He got cameras in goddamn ant mounds. You know, he got cameras in snake holes and shit, you know, and alligator burrows and whatnot. You know, even the animals, goddamn, are not free of what this white boy put his eyes at. He's perpetrating himself as the Lord. He got cameras everywhere. All on the water when the shark catching the seal and all that. You know what I'm talking about? He make it seem like, you know, it's easy breezy peasy, you know. But that's that illusion. That's that that spell casting, that enchantment that he's laid on the entire world, especially so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. You still ain't woke up from the television yet. Anyway, it says, thou art wiser than Daniel. It said, but behold, thou art wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that they can hide from thee. And you know, through chattel slavery, he was doing the monstrous goddamn medical practices on our women and whatnot. You know, without anesthesia, without painkillers and whatnot. You know, you know, Henrietta Lacks comes to mind. You know, when took her cells and cultured them and came up with a way that they can manufacture AIDS, defeat the so-called God gene. Anyway, verse 5, it says, but it says, by the great wisdom and by thy thackesis. Hold on, let me see what this word is real quick. Lock it. Real quick, let me see what this word is. Traffic. Okay, traffic. All the buying and selling people or making money. See, when they broke it in half, with my reading ass, I couldn't make sense of what I was reading. It says the act of buying or selling people or of making money from work they are forced to do, such as sex work, trafficking. Cambridge, let's go real quick. Cambridge, trafficking. It says the act of buying or selling goods illegally. The act of buying or selling people or of making money from work they are forced to do, such as sex work, arms, drug trafficking. And this man, you go back to the Iran gun contra deal during the Bush-Reagan administration, or the Reagan-Bush administration. Now you'll see there was a lot of trafficking going on then. It says, by thy great wisdom and by thy trafficking hast thou increased thy riches. And they were making plenty of money back then. But you know, this could be alluded to you know, the transatlantic slave trade, where you know you had free labor, free land, and 100% profit. You know, you were trafficking the Israelites back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean, as they call it, the pond, forcing you to work, you know, for free. They made no account of your labors, you know what I'm talking about? And they and the byproduct of it is they were able to create universities, a whole society, a worldwide economy from the wood that was trafficked, that was made, that was harvested to make the boats, the ports that were keeping log of the livestock, which were the Israelites coming in and out the ports. You know, just a worldwide deal. You know, sugar canes, cotton, you name it. You know, they came up. They became filthy rich. So much so that America's probably, if not one of the richest kingdoms that ever was on the face of the planet Earth because of this. But it reads, by thy great wisdom and by thy trafficking hast thou increased thy riches, and thy heart is lifted up because of thy riches. It says, therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, because thou hast set thy heart as the heart of God. Behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness. And they, you know, the United States done got so slick, they done not slick it themselves with those sanctions. Now they have been doing that for since the inception of this country, which this country is less than 250 years old. But they have been sanctioning in some shape, form, or fashion their allies since their conception their birth in 1776, and through it all, they was given the technology to create the atomic weapons and force folks into surrender, like the Japanese and whatnot. And you think these people have forgotten about all the atrocities that you put on their people as well? They've been laying and waiting, buying them their time so that they can one day get the ups on you. And we're seeing that's what's happening now. These other countries, these other kings have been dealing with this war, that they don't feel so weak now. So they're making pats between one another. How's that old saying go? Is the enemy of my enemy my friend? In this case, that seems to be the case. China and Russia were never no bosom buddies. Yeah, for lack of a better word, they bosom buddies for the most part. China and the Middle East. You didn't hear about these things, especially during the Clinton. Not Clinton, Clinton going all the way back into Nixon. You didn't hear nothing about all that. Now these people are, you got Russia and North Korea, taking photo ops. Yeah. But this has been in the makings, because these proud, pompous Americans, these so-called white men over here in the Western Hemisphere, they are proud beyond belief. And the neglect to check their proud nature has become an asset to their quote-unquote ally enemies. That pride, pompous behavior that they neglect to check, they didn't check themselves. Now that has come back to bite them in the ass because of all the wickedry that they've done to these other nations. Now it's starting to come back and roost, because they were too proud to check themselves. Who can bring me down? We just read it in Obadiah. Who can bring me down? That's you being proud beyond belief, and you're so proud that you don't even check yourself. You don't even believe that you can be tripped up. Now that's you've been deceived. You deceive your own self. It says, behold, therefore I will bring strangers upon thee, the terrible of the nations, and they shall draw their swords against the beauty of thy wisdom, and they shall defile thy brightness, and they shall bring thee down to the pit, and thou shalt die the death of them that are slain in the midst of the seas. Wilt thou yet say before him that slayeth thee, I am God? Huh? You gonna tell him? You gonna tell him then? I'm God. You can't do this to me. But thou shall be a man and no God in the hand of him that slayeth thee. Thou shalt die the death of the uncircumcised by the hand of strangers. For I have spoken it, saith the Lord Yahweh power. This white man is just that, a man. And he's a base man at that. He's a base man. He's the bottom man. He's the bottom feeder. A knuckle-dragging, lice-picking cave maggot that learned to clean up and put on a suit and tie. Perpetrate itself as the Most High. Let me close out with this. Let me get out of here. Let me see. This is Revelations. Let's see, 17. This is Revelation 17 and 15, and it reads, it says, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. He's talking about America all over the place now, trying to check their allies, whatnot. Trying to check in on their democracy buddies. Y'all still using U.S. currency, ain't it? Don't use the ruble. It's over. Because once they lose these next little few strongholds, which is inevitable, then they're gonna have to move toward yeah, you guessed it, Revelations 13, 15 through 16. Yeah, they have to move to that. These things have to come to pass, and then all that fighting and whatnot gonna break loose. Because this is what the scriptures say. It says in verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. 17. For God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will. It said that in the they shall build, but I shall throw down. Malachi verses 1 through 4. Chapter 1, verses 1 through 4. They shall build, but I'm going to throw down. This is the will of the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. He ruleth in the kingdom of men. In fact, let's go. The king's heart. I think it's Proverbs 21 real quick. It is. It's Proverbs 21:1. It says the king's heart is in the hand of the Lord Yahweh. As the rivers of water, he turneth whithersoever he will. So there you have it, They're gonna do his will. Whose will? The Most High's will. Revelation 17:17. For God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will. Just read it in Proverbs 21:1. This is the will of the Most High. And to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the word of God shall be fulfilled. And it's about that. It's about fulfilled. They gave over their kingdoms and let them do what they wanted to do. And when I say they, the Americans, by way of their embassies and their military bases placed throughout planet Earth, ruling over the people, making them abide by democracy and puppet governments and the Federal Reserve note, making trade in the Federal Reserve note and U.S. debt, for lack of better words. But that was just to put a heavy burden on this place. This place is filled with debt, And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. That's America, which is losing its grip. It's losing its grip. Yeah, America is losing her grip. I think which one it was. Let's see, that heavy debt. Let's see, 6 I think it was. Yes, listen to this here. This is Habakkuk 2 and 1, and it reads, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. These scriptures, these prophecies were written for an appointed time. And his servants, the prophets, John, Jeremiah, Paul, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Habakkuk, these visions were written for an appointed time, and we're in that time. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak. And at the end it's speaking, because guess what? You have the apostle elders, a great millstone, who the Lord has bestowed the Rakah Kodash, the Holy Spirit, to interpret. They've been given that portion to be able to break, to be able to see the mysteries of the scriptures, to get the breakdown of these scriptures, and so that we, men who have followed in their labor, could make sense of what we see in the world by filtering it by way of the scriptures. You know, we're at the end and speaking this because Christianity in these damn church houses has been going on since plantation Christianity, and it still is, and they still haven't given you the answers. They don't even preach prophecy in the church houses. They don't even preach that because the Lord is not dealing with them on that level. Not dealing with them. Anyway, let me read. It says, "Speak and not lie, though it take time, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith." And it's going on this white man, you know. Yea, because he transgressed by wine, all these old democracy and you know, the upside down turning of the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, everything that is scripture, he's contrary to it. You dig what I'm saying? Though he yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keep it at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathered unto him all nations, and heaped unto him all people. Is that not who that's talking about? America? Huh? We know it was written back in a certain time period, but these scriptures jump from present, past to future. You know, and you have to have that understanding, that spirit of the Ruach Kodesh put onto you to understand that. But first, you have to be taught these things by men. You know, and I ain't know any men talking about men of the Lord, in particular, and my particular walk in this, the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Verse 6, it says, "Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that layeth himself with thick clay." And I'm gonna end it with that, because the thing is that this place has propagated democracy, nation building, money laundering, money loaning with interest rates a country can't pay back, much less an individual, you know, a ruling class or a government. A country, by and large, can't pay back the interest that these ruling elites have put on to a nation to rebuild them after they go in there and destroy it. And in doing so, the money that they manufacture and they pump out, it ain't even real money. One of the brothers put out a video. I think Brother Yawatazar put a video, well, a TikTok video, which is just a few minutes long, where they took so many grams of pennies and weighed them. Same amount of pennies, one amount weighed slightly more than the other amount. But when they grind back the layer, the brown layer of the penny, you came to a penny, a copper-coated zinc penny, made of zinc. And then the other penny, which was made of copper, same amount of pennies, you dig what I'm saying? It weighed more. But the thing is, the trick, this debt, check this out now. Here you making money out of something that's not money, and have to pay $2 and $3. The U.S. government pays about a third more for pure copper versus zinc. So they're using zinc pennies covered with copper coating, something that ain't even money. You follow what I'm saying? And this is the society that you live in. And they pushed all that debt onto you. So when you receive a paycheck, you receive debt. When you go down there and cash your paycheck and get these FRNs, you're buying cars, you're buying properties, you're paying notes, mortgage and whatnot with debt. With debt. Anyway, Lord willing, it was edifying. Just want to bring out a few points. With that, I'm going to close. I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.